Today's Rambam, Hilchas Kelim, Perik Chav Beis. We're going to discuss Halacha in the middle of the Perik, or towards later in the Perik, Halacha Chaf. And while the Halacha here is in Hilchas Tumah, we're going to extrapolate and take it into Hilchas Shabbos, as the Gemara does in various places. So the Rambam speaks about talis shel oni. Basically, the halacha is that a talis of a poor person that has been worn out, which unfortunately they can't afford to wear new clothing, so it wears out. So the halacha is as follows: if the edges are okay, so even Ava Bishaim B'Sholosh Al Sholosh Bari or Baria doesn't have 3 by 3 that are strong, then it will receive, it'll accept tumah, it'll become tumah if it encounters tumah. So then it'll depend. If there are no edges properly intact, then it'll depend if the 3 by 3 is strong, solid, or then it'll be susceptible to becoming tameh. If not, nisht, won't become. And that, then he says, v'chein shar big danim, and so to all other big danim. What he means with that needs to be explained, but that's the words of the Rambam. The Aruch HaShulchan HaOsid, I'm not here to plug, but I just want to mention that when you're learning Kairos, there are very few svarim that you can really look to for clarity, because there isn't a lot written on it that organizes it so well. And the Aruch HaShulchan style of organizing things comes into, in areas that we all know a lot about, we don't appreciate so much, although people who don't, the area people don't know will appreciate. But when it comes to Tumah and Taira and Israelim, it is an incredible sefer because of his organizational skills and how he develops things, and his thought process really, really are very helpful in sugyas that we don't have that familiarity, which we have in other areas in Shas. So anyhow, he asked the question on the Rambam. There's a Mishnah in Kelim, Big Day Aniyim, Ava Bishaim Mem Sholosh Al Sholosh Harein Tmei Medris. And he writes, brings the Pirush from the Rambam and the Rav and the Bartanura, that if they're made out of, pieces, small pieces, but they don't combine to be Gimel al Gimel, they're still Tameh Medris. Because in overall, when you count on the Beged as a whole, it has Gimel Tvachim al Gimel Tvachim. In other words, if you really put the pieces together, it won't, but if you look at it as a whole, it'll happen. And why the Rambam doesn't mention this in Yad HaChazokah, there's no mention. And so he goes on to explain, the Rambam Shita is as that, and therefore explains that also, it's all about strong connections of the items that are sewn together, and whether they have a border. So he says like this: if they have a border, then even though they're loosely put together, it's good because the border brings them together as a beged. And where if they don't have a border, then they have to be strong. And that's the meaning in the Gemara, which we're going to talk about. Big day aniyim la aniyim, big day ashirim la ashir. Says the begadim of aniyim for the aniyim, begadim of ashirim for ashirim. Have a big day aniyim la ashirim loy. Meaning that if you're going to find an ashir, a wealthy man, that's very stingy and frugal, and he's every little piece of clothing to him is valuable, and he wants to wear a beged like an ani. So we say, sorry, man, that has no value halachically. So he says, therefore, the Rambam has no reason to bring that halacha because it's all inclusive in his halacha. It doesn't have a border, does not have a border, how it's set up, is it strong or not? It's all part of this halacha. And it comes out like this. So if the Ashir owns the beged, it goes according to the Ashir. If the Ani owns the beged, it goes according to the Ani. So if the Ashir gives the Ani a beged, it belongs to the Ani. And then it becomes Tameh automatically if it's a beged. And that's the opinion. In other words, depending on who owns it, who is the balabas of that beged, that's the status of the beged, whether it is a beged or not. And therefore, the Rambam already mentions this, and this is his shita, and he doesn't have no reason. He has no reason to bring anything else that's mentioned. That's the Aruch HaShulchan, very well organized, brought down the Lishenis of the Tosefta and the Mishnah, and it's very beautiful. Okay, so let's transfer this halacha to Shabbos and Hilchas Muktzah. How do we apply this idea that a beged of an ani can be Muktzah for an Ashir or for an Ashir for an ani? How does it work? So the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos, Daf Mem Zayin, tells a story that, not a story, that was an incident that Rabbi Rumnis, that said that Rebbe allowed, Rumnis said, Rebbe allowed me to carry a pail, a shovel with ashes on it. So I said, how did I do that? A muktzah, carrying the ashes, only if it has something that's mutter to carry, are you allowed to? So the Gemara says, and he answered after being first taken aback, he answered the following, that there was some usable incense over there, carton, things that they can use, little pieces. So Abaya asks, you're talking about Bei Rebbe. Rebbe was a wealthy man. Carton Bei Rebbe Nichashivi. Is these little pieces of whatever it is, incense, that is it worth anything? So the Gemara says, why? Yeah, poor people can use it. But we learned the Mishnah. Big day, well, Tanya, we learned the Bryce, I'm sorry. Big day aniyim la aniyim, big day ashirim la ashirim, avod aniyim la ashirim la. Meaning that a beged of an ani to an asher is worthless. So therefore it shouldn't have any value. So here too, the carton should be bottled. Okay. That's the Gemara. And therefore it should have a value to make it that you're allowed to carry it. Zok the Ramban, the famous Ramban over there. From here we learn the Muktzah la Ashirim bebeis Ashirim, Muktzah la Ashirim. And Va'afilu Aniyim em metaltneisen, shekvar huktzah midaita shabalabayis ha'oshim ha'evyan. In other words, if an Ashir has something that he doesn't have value for, and therefore is maktzah midaita, he has no interest in on Shabbos or Yom Tov, then it becomes muktzah. If an ani comes into the house and to him, walks in with his kid to eat there, and they love this little tchotchke that the ani has no value for. Too bad, muktzah, because the usher is maximized. And he brings another raya from the Dorim that if somebody makes a neder, so we say it's muktzah. The Gemara speaks about it, at least over there. And even though the neder is only for yourself, but Taisus doesn't learn like that. They just learned that the neder was for the whole world. The Ran asks a question. I don't understand. How can it be? Aniyim, it's chazi. They should be allowed. And they should be allowed to carry big aniyim. He says, the question here isn't whether the aniyim are allowed. The question is whether ashirim are allowed. Because it's chazi l'aniyim. And he raises it out, you know that the ashirim can't. So he says that it's only usher in the house of the usher. And then he asks the question, if that's what the Rambam meant, that in the house only it's us. All right, there's a lot to talk about here, but we're going to stick to our topic and keep it as short as we can. The Mechaber, Shulchan Aruch, Siman Shin Ches, Sif Chav Bey, Sif Nun Beis, writes, Muktzah la'ashirim have a muktzah. If it's muktzah for ashirim, it's muktzah. Afila aniyim ein metalton. The Alter Rebbe, there in the Siman Shin Ches and Sif Peites, it goes into an arichas discussion. And just to know what he says, we'll go through quickly. Even something that's usable on Shabbos, but garua be'enei ashirim. It's something that ashirim don't look down at. Ve'ein darkam lehishtamesh boy. And they have they don't use it. Machmas oshram, because they're wealthy. So this becomes nasa dovazem muktzah gomur lahem. It's also af shehu shalaniyim, even if it belongs to aniyim. But if it's in the house of aniyim, ela ashirim shebebeis aniyim mutarim l'taltlik k'mayaniyim atzma. So, in the house of a ashir, it seems like it goes according to who you are. If it belongs to the ashir itself, also betilkol af l'chol aniyim shebe'elam. So also for everybody. So if it's something that's geruah bein ashirim, then it's only for the ashirim, even if it belongs to the aniyim. But as long as it's not in the house of the aniyim. But if it's something belonging to ashir, then it's also for kol and kol. If it's not because it looks down at it, it's not something of value to him, but because it's also, then it's mutter. That's mutter. Because others can use it. Again, this is Shabbos, Halacha. Question that is obvious. Where is this halacha in Rambam? That muktzah l'ashirim have a muktzah, as it says in the Chaber, or the way the Alter Rebbe brings the different conditions, the different halachas. Why is it not there? The only thing that we do find in the Rambam is he says l'gabe perish also la'achlam, and then it's aser l'taltlam, but the mai, since it's royal aniyim, then it's mutter for everybody. The usher can't have it. Okay, and some say the Gemara, there's a lashon is that he can become an ani, but the Rambam doesn't say that. He says however royal ani. There's an interesting Gemara in Masechta Sukkah. It says when the husband finishes those rounds of Miftzayim, nothing more doesn't say that, but I'm just interpreting. So he comes back after a whole day of carrying the lulav and esrog. I mean, the Gemara does say that it's after a long, you carry it with you wherever you go. Obviously, why would you carry it with you? No, it's for Miftzayim purposes. A woman can take it from her husband and put it into the water. Why not? In other words, what's the chiddush involved in it? So the Gemara answers, Mahu the Tema Hoyel V'Ishalav Bas Chiyuva because a woman is not mechuyev in the lulav and esrog. So maybe she's not allowed to her it's muktzah. It's a grashi. She's also because of muktzah. Even the royal and the tilas anoshim teres kli all love mutter. So here we start seeing a pattern of when it's muktzah for one, it might be not muktzah for the rest of the world. It might not become muktzah. Erevin, there is a discussion. Now, why aren't women, why would it be muktzah for a woman? That's the shayla. So, so the Gemara in Erevin talks about the shayla of noshim semchis shus, if the women can do smicha on a carb. And the Gemara goes through different discussion. Kapanim, in the end of their, I want to go to the point, to get to the point. We end up, I'm not going to get into details of the shittas, I mean, and not how we develop those shittas, but there are three opinions regarding noshim and Mrs. Haseish Mangrom. Whether they're mechuyev, potter, not mechuyev, whether they're potter, osir, partial. One opinion is that they cannot do anything that there might be some possible isur d'Rabbanan. So you can't just go ahead and do a mitzvah. For instance, smicha. Smicha, there's a shayla because you're putting a load on the kachim. There's no mitzvah, it's a problem of being mishtamish b'kachim, using kachim. So however, when there is no isur involved, and it's just a question, do what you want. Why not? Make them happy. If that's what they're going to make them happy, let them do it. The second opinion is, no, there might be baltaisif. Not allowed to do it. They don't have a mitzvah. Why do it as a, if they're doing it as a mitzvah, you can't do it. And the third opinion is they're not chuyev. They get a mitzvah. They get schar, and therefore they can even make a bracha. The different opinions. We obviously, some of us hold that we do, Chassidim, and many of the people hold that they could make a bracha. Some don't make a bracha. In the Rid in Rosh Hashanah, Piskei Rid says that same chis dafke b'lei bracha. But if they made a bracha, so that tells you they want to do a mitzvah. Now they can't do it because multis. And the same thing for the again, the bracha makes it worse. Okay, what the Rambam Shitta is, on one hand he writes that they can do it, on the other hand he writes they can't do smicha. So the Rambam Shitta seems to be that you do what you want. You don't make a bracha. And just go ahead. You want to do it like the first opinion was said. However, where what you're doing might be a problem in Shamish B'Kachim, like that you can't do. Okay, having said that, perhaps we can now go back and analyze the Rambam Shitta, if Muktzah Lashirim, Muktzah Laniyim, The Machne Ephraim in Masechta Shabbos, after he brings that Ran about Muktzah Shirim, he writes, the only proof from here that it's Muktzah Shirim, but that it should be Muktzah Niyim, no. And then he says, anywhere it's Mutter Laniyim Letaltaloi, Shori La Shirim Gamke. If Aniyim are allowed, Shirim are allowed. What did the Gemara want? Big down Niyim. The Gemara is saying something else, that since it's not choshev to the oshir, it doesn't help when it's choshev to the oni. And therefore the Gemara asked, the same idea should be by the carton, it shouldn't be choshev. Okay. Good. And I'm not getting into how the Rambam learns the Gemara, but perhaps. Muktzah. What's muktzah? Why is muktzah asur? You look at the Rambam, it's a long arichus. It gives a number of reasons. But you see from the Ravid's Hasogya that basically what comes out is as follows. That according to the Rambam uses a very interesting lashon. And I want to read that part of the lashon where he says that. He says that because you can end up carrying back and forth, you can end up doing things from going back and forth, and then he adds a line. You have like be like let's near bottle you didn't do shvisa, and then he adds the fichach shvisa midvarim elu, meaning muktzah. Shvisa hashove b'chol odom is equal to all. It's something that fits everyone. And therefore, there's the Isser of Muktzah. And the Ravid comes out, argues that I don't understand what the Rambam wants. It has to do with Isser Eitzah. We don't want you to come to Eitzah. So it comes out like this. According to the Rambam, the Isser Muktzah mainly is in order to have a shvisa. What's the definition of shvisa? Is something that everybody is shavis from, something that all of us, shvisa shove b'cholon. That way it's considered a shvisa. Oh, so if you only shavis from things that have to do with me personally, then there's no shvisa. So perhaps the Rambam Shitta is you cannot have muktzah on something like what the Machne Ephraim says, on something that's it's only also for some people. It won't get a din muktzah. That's not shvisa. It has to be shvisa shava b'chalada. Only there shayir to get the shvisa. Therefore, perhaps the Rambam Shitta based on the Gemara in Sukkah is that the Gemara is telling us there that once it is shayich to some people, is not considered shvisa. This is not muktzah, and that's why the Rambam just says hayil v'roy laniyim. Therefore, it's muktzah. It doesn't go into the fact that because you can become an ani, it's not a gay anymore. Once it is not shoved shvisa l'chol adam, it's not shvisa. And therefore the Rambam doesn't hold halacha. Big Daniyim will be considered muktzah that Big Daniyim will consider muktzah to Hashem. All that is not the gay. Once it is not a shvisa shav l'chol adam, it's not a shvisa. And that's why he doesn't bring it. The interesting point comes out of this. There's a famous Shar Melech, he quotes from Marie Evan Noam, a famous Shaila. Are you allowed to give tobacco? I guess they use the pipe tobacco. Or are you allowed to title the pipe that you use to get the tobacco? Because you don't smoke on Shabbos, on Yom Tov. Sorry, not Shabbos. And to him, it's Havara Shalei L'Tzerech. right? Somebody who doesn't smoke, it's havarla chalei tzarech. Or, and therefore it's muktzah. But, or no, but that guy, it's mutter, so why would it be considered to me ma'aser? It's not muktzah. And he brings a raya from this Gemara that by the Isha, it's mutter because it's a keli for the ish. Now, okay, it's a big difference. And the Sham Melech says, because there it's all that he's doing a mitzvah, she's doing a mitzvah, or she's not doing a mitzvah. How it goes through this whole halacha. And it's a big shaila in Perokim, a lot of issues that come out of this. But according to what we're saying in the Rambam, it's not a shaila. Because you need, in order to be muktzah, it has to be a shrisa hashava b'chol adam. It's not shrisa hashava b'chol adam. You cannot create the din muktzah. Now, is this real? Is it true according to the Rambam? I don't know. I'm just suggesting that might be reason why the Rambam does not bring this halacha. Sei gesund, Hatzlacha Rabba, we will.